Hey everyone, happy Thursday. Gordon here with another Tech Time with Gordon. Today I will be covering computer terminology. For those who don't know what that means, basically some people like to call it geek speak. It's just terms that are used when it comes down to computers, whether it be talking about like the physical components to software to programming lingo. And for those who don't know it, it can be really intimidating. It makes it harder for someone to understand what's going on. So I've decided to do this session. And today we're going to cover A to L. And then in the next session, I will conclude all the way to the Z's. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first, we're going to cover A. So we're going to do address bar. For those that don't know what an address bar is, basically it is a small, narrow, rectangular box on the top of our internet browser. So when we surf the internet, we have our web page here, and then if you look at the very top, you'll see it. And then if you look actually up here in my PowerPoint presentation, you see an example of what the address box looks like. And then generally it's going to be filled with information. And this will be the web address or wherever we're going. So we can type this in ourselves. So an example, if we wanted to go to, say, CNN, we would just put www.cnn.com, hint enter, and now we're on that website. Another A is adware. So basically these are advertising software. You can see them in different things. Generally, we'll find them in our web browser, but we can also see them sometimes when we have programs. So basically, these are materials that they are trying to get you to click or interact with, whether it's buying materials or talking about elections or what have you. Generally, we want to avoid clicking or interacting with them. So, the best is generally hitting X, but not actually clicking yes or agreeing to any of their terms. You can also get other software that helps prevent these when it comes to the internet with your internet browser that I definitely recommend people searching for if you do have problems when it comes to adware. Broadband for Bs, this is basically a term that's used for high-speed internet connection. So most people say I'm on broadband, so it's just talking about, I have high-speed connection. So, I'm pretty good with my broadband. Browsers, everyone's used probably a browser. If you're watching this, you've used a browser. This is the software that is used to get us access to the internet. So these programs allow us to see and interpret information that is a website and allows us to view and interact with it. For most of us, we'll probably have experienced Internet Explorer, but there are a couple others out there such as Google Chrome, Firefox, and for those who are Mac users, Safari. C is for CPU, so these are the brains of your computer or generally any electronic. Basically what a CPU will do is it'll interpret and carry out program instructions. So all the information is being sent to the CPU or this brain, and then that brain is basically taking that instruction and saying, for a computer, you need to do this, you need to do that. Generally, we do want a decent CPU when it comes down to our equipment, because if we have cheaper or not as good CPUs, you have a bad brain. So it takes it takes more and more time to process information just because it can't handle it. So when you are looking at devices, you do want to have a decent CPU. D is for desktop. So when we first turn on our computer, we'll be greeted to this screen. So we'll have a nice picture for our background, and then we'll have icons that we can click on and interact with it. So generally this is the first spot that we are going to go onto our computer, or this is the first thing that's going to be loaded. For those who are using phones and tablets, this is your home screen. So just a place where this is going to be our main HQ, or our main place where we're going to be doing most of our stuff. Dialog box. This is kind of a special box that appears when your computer has to provide you additional information or needs to carry out a specific task. So above is a dialog box. So it's just asking, do we want to replace it? Yes or no. So basically, it's a computer and it's giving us information that needs our input in order to function. Sometimes a dialog box might just give you a warning or just a message that doesn't give you a yes or no. But again, the dialog box is just there to provide you information, or potentially if it requires you to do something more. For downloading, this is a process of copying files from the internet. So we're pulling these files, bringing them down onto our machine, and then we are copying them for our personal device. E is for email. So basically this is electronic mail. It's just a faster way of exchanging information between people using electronic devices. In order to communicate back and forth, you do need to have the other person's email address. So, if you're used to doing physical mail, or I like to say snail mail, you have to have that person's street address and all their information in order to send it properly. And similar with electronic mail, you need to know their email address in order to send to them specifically. Another for E is encryption. So basically this codes the information or file that we're sending as an email. So it just makes it harder for someone to snatch or pull down that might not be the recipient, because sometimes you do have hackers or third-party vendors that might be spying on stuff that you're sending back and forth. With encryption, it makes it basically harder or almost impossible to read that information, and it will only uncrypt when it gets to the other person. So basically during transit, it's not readable, but once that other person gets it, it either will uncrypt itself, or you will provide information in order to uncrypt it. And this is a great way to send sensitive information. If you have to send banking information or like government documents or stuff like that, this is just a great way of making sure that no one else is going to get that information besides the person you are sending it as an email. Firewall, so basically this is just a generic term that's used about, describing a barrier when it comes down to our computer. So generally for antivirus software, they act as a wall, they act as a shield. And before a virus or hacker can get into your computer, they have to get through this wall. So this wall acts as a great deterrent when it comes down to people hacking or doing some damage to your device. And it is always good to have a firewall in place and antivirus software to make sure that this, they can't get past that and then access your machine. H is for hardware. So this is the components that generally make up our device. Again, this can be a computer, your tablet, your smartphone. So anything that makes up your device, they're generally called hardware. For hard drives, basically these are computer storage devices. Every machine will have a hard drive built into it. And basically it reads and writes, so it stores all the information that our device has onto these hard drives. So they're constantly writing stuff and they're constantly reading or pulling that information out. They're a great way for storing and keeping stuff, but you do want to make sure when it comes down to your hard drive, you want to back that information up. Because if the hard drive fails on your device, Generally, that means you've lost all that information that was on your computer or whatever device you have. I is for icons, so these are all those small little pictures that we see, and they represent commands. So this could be something as simple as, a file, a Word document, could be a program that we're launching, or some kind of program. But when we click on the command, or when we click on the icon, it's going to do a command. So whether I want to open it or launch a program, basically these icons are there to allow you to interact with your computer a little bit better. Internet, basically it's a computer network worldwide. All these computers are connected and they're transferring information. So basically that's how the internet works. So it's a vast array of networks. So that's why you get that term World Wide Web, because all those networks, crisscrossing kind of, gives that concept or imagination of, a vast network of webs. And with the internet, we get access to the like websites, email. We use the internet quite a bit, but that's kind of, giving you a brief idea of what the internet actually is. L is for links, or what people like to call, or another term is hyperlinks. So generally, these are underlined features on a website. So these are the little texts that have the underline, and generally have different colors. Sometimes it can be maybe potentially buttons, but when we take our mouse, and again looking up above, when I take on my mouse, it'll change my cursor, and then it's going to change it. Generally, it'll look like a hand or something else that you're generally used to. This is just indicating that I can click on it, and when I click on it, it could potentially take me to another part of the website, could take me to another website, or potentially it will try to copy information to my computer. So whether it's, download this PDF or download this image, that is what a link is. Another thing for L is log on, so just to gain access to a system, whether it be a computer system or a website. So if someone says, please log on to this website, they're just asking you to go on that website and then log in with your account. So generally they want you to log in with your username and your password and have access to the material, whether again it's on the website or logging in onto your computer, so you're on your computer at that time. That concludes my computer terminology from A to L. Again, I will be continuing this series for next week. If you have any suggestions when it comes down